Full disclosure, Bob is a friend of mine, and I don't use that term lightly. He's a colleague. Oh, okay. He's a colleague too, but Bob's been a friend for almost 20 years. And we're text and talk on the phone all the time, email and such things. I've gotten to know him quite well. He's a lighting professional of the first order. Now, some of you may not think that that applies to electrical distributors.
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Thank you. I started out running the lighting division for an electrical distributor, and I'll tell you, they can add a lot of value, but they really can be professionals, and Bob is a lighting professional of the first order. And I know many of you here, and I a lot of friends in the room. I know lighting professionals. This guy, he surprises a lot of people. So I'm going to share one story. I was at a, and you haven't heard this, Bob. And if I get anything wrong, you don't have to correct me.
Especially if it's good.
So I was saving a seat for Bob at an event, and I think it was at Light Fair. Bud Brainerd and John Hannafin were speaking. And I was sitting with two colleagues that were a little more on the, definitely much more on the academic side. Most of you would know their names. And Bob came in, and I introduced him, and I introduced him from being from Capital Electric, and they thought, well, electrical distributor. They were real polite, and then they turned around and kept talking with each other, like they wouldn't necessarily engage with Bob being of that profession. But at the end of the session, Bob stood up and asked a question of Bud, and I remember Bud saying, wow, I hadn't even thought of that before. And the guys next to me, they did a double take because they said, wait a minute, that was one of the most articulate questions that had been asked during that session. Beyond all of his breadth of knowledge of the industry, I think one of the reasons he's being recognized here, and I really appreciate that the judges recognized Bob today because he deserves it, is he's been an educator. So I've taught with Bob before. In fact, we've got another gig coming up. And he brings in the electricians. Now, there's another demeaned group amongst us is the electricians. In many cases, they deserve it, but I don't think there's anybody in the room who wouldn't think that they need continuous education. Bob not only delivers it, he delivers it like any good educator in the lighting industry would, and he packs the house. It just floors me. Now, today, Bob is joined by Mark Hodges, who is the director of lighting for Sonopar, the parent company of Capital, today. And I can tell you from knowing Mark and the folks at Sonopar that they appreciate what Bob's doing. It's nice to work for a company that appreciates you. We have a lot of parallels in our life, but I think gratitude is one of them. We're both really grateful for where we're at right now in this industry, and the fact that you're getting acknowledged is overdue, my friend, but well-deserved.
Thank you.
So I'm honored to award this to Bob Preston, my friend, today.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. First thing I want to do, well, someone said to me when they knew I was getting this, I can't remember who it was, and maybe there's a good reason why I don't remember who it was, that told me, don't spend the entire time thanking people. Well, you're looking at one big sack of gratitude, okay? I don't know any other way. My accomplishments, this is extremely humbling, and I want to thank the committee for even considering how my name got into that. I told a few people, clearly you're starting to run out of people to give this to. But with the accomplishments of the people at the table, and many of you in the room, this is really, really humbling. Particularly so because I am also clearly entering closer to the end of my career than the beginning. That said, I'm not going anywhere because it's too much fun. But the first thing I would like to do in terms of gratitude is mention and say I'm very, very happy that my wife, Pam, is joining me tonight. This is her first ever lighting event of any kind that we've ever had. So I told her that I was more anxious than anything else to introduce her to many of my lighting family, because that's what this is. This is a family of people that I've gotten to know that have accepted me in. Mark indicated that as a distributor, we aren't exactly thought of right at the top of the list. However, maybe if I've done nothing else over the years, I've helped to change that a little bit, maybe, hopefully. But I'm very, very grateful to my company, Capital Electric, and our parent company, Sonepar. They've given me the opportunity to be able to do something that I can tell you right now, with all the years I've had with the company, it's been 8, that it is by far the most rewarding and the most impactful and the most enjoyable thing I have ever done. And I am not anxious to leave and do anything else because I love this too much and I love the people too much. And it's something I really, really want to do. That said, thank you, Randy. I appreciate it. Randy's leadership in the lighting industry is unparalleled. And I don't know how many of you get his daily podcast. Hopefully most of you do. If you don't, you should. It's very interesting and very informative. I happen to be one, however, who thinks that it's less about information than it is about Randy making us all feel bad about the places he is and we're not. But thanks for for even sponsoring this event and sponsoring the award. I'm very humble. Lance, my friend Lance Bennett, known Lance for a long time. I've worked with one of his folks, my good friend Bill O'Connell here in the audience. Lance is responsible for if there's any one person responsible for our membership in IES, it's Lance. In IES, I know you introduced her earlier, but the great Colleen Harper is in the back of the room. I love Colleen Harper. Hope all you do too. But we, a number of years ago, Lance thought it would be a good idea that we should maybe think about becoming a sustaining member when it was just Capital. And we were doing a seminar down in Hagerstown, Maryland. Bill and I, and Lance was there, and he pulled me aside. And I don't know how many of you know Lance real well, but he has an insidiously subtle way of convincing you to do something. It runs something along the lines of, "You are going to be a sustaining member, aren't you?" So we did sign up as a sustaining member of IES. That subsequently, when Mark Hodges and myself began working on some of the things that we're working on, actually led to a champion level sustaining membership, a true leadership level, where I really do give, again, thanks and gratitude to our company, Sonepar, parent company, and Capital Electric for showing leadership in that regard, being only one of 4 sustaining champion level sustaining members in the IES in the first place, and I can guarantee you the only distributor who's anywhere near that level. And we're very, very proud of that and very happy to support the IES. I don't know about the rest of you. Those of you who have spouses that aren't in the business, it can be really difficult. Does your wife or your husband, do they really understand what you do? Because I have to say, we struggle with that, and we've kind of finally settled on, well, he's in lighting, okay? It's a little like saying, well, he's in banking. Banking, oh, does he run them or rob them? It covers a lot of ground, So it's, in lighting seems to suffice. It is a lot more than that, and it has taken me to many places, literally and figuratively, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities. Of late, in particular, I am exceedingly grateful to my dear friend Mark Hodges with Sonepar, who I work with closely. We have, and I'm going to put a little plug in for what we've done, because I frankly don't have, I don't have a lot of accomplished to talk about. I haven't designed lighting in buildings. I haven't done any of that stuff. There's a lot of people out there, absolutely everybody out there is way more knowledgeable than me. You've probably worked harder than me. I just don't know that there's anybody, if I can take a little bit of personal pride, that maybe outpassions me, if that's such a term. I love this industry. I love the work. I love what we do. And Mark and I have been able to develop, thankfully, with the support of our company, Sonopar, to develop what is probably the most comprehensive lighting education program in the industry. I don't say distribution, I would say in the industry. Most of the manufacturers that are exposed to this, most everybody that are exposed to this, their mouths drop open because we have really put some resources, and I mean serious resources, into this, and we are unbelievably successful. We've been fortunate enough to have a program which starts literally at a Module 1, Lighting Fundamentals, Lighting Basics, moves into a Module 2, which is more advanced, working in the industry. Now that I know a little bit about how do I work in it, how do I do it, we just about a month ago launched for the first time our Module 3, which is lighting design and design concepts, learning how to design things up and lay things out. And on top of all that, we do an LC prep course or study group and prep people for the LC exam, which, by the way, this past year, Sonopar put 14 new LCs on the rolls, the largest of any company. So I am full of gratitude for having the opportunity to do the things that I'm able to do with the people that I'm able to associate with. And I see so many of them here in the room who are really, really dear, dear friends of mine who are family, literally. And Mark is at the top of the list. I first met Mark many years ago when he was at Hubble, and a small group of us came down for a training class down in Greenville. And we were in the big auditorium down, and Mark did the first Mark Lien presentation I ever heard was in that room. Pre-LED, okay, this was all, but he had the message that he always does, and that was the first time I got it. I absolutely got it. I understood why we were doing this, why it was important, what could be done, what the future looked like. It absolutely made sense to me. And I made it my mission to seek him out because it was that important. And I followed him around from Hubble to Osram to IES, and we've become friends. And I will say proudly that Mark is my closest friend in the lighting industry, and I'm so glad to have him. And I hope neither of us are going anywhere, because when he goes, that's when I go. We have an opportunity, I think, right now in this industry, because we are at a very interesting place. We've all lived through the last 10 years, 12 years, 15 years of the LED revolution. And now we've kind of arrived on the other side in terms of light sources, certainly, and we're in the application of those light sources. And I think we're right now in a position where we're maybe trying to figure that out. All right, we've landed here. We can reflect on the journey, but what do we have ahead of us? It's not as clearly defined as it was 15 years ago. We say, okay, here's this thing, it's an LED. Figure out how to use it. Figure out how to build it, okay? Figure out how to put it places. Figure out what it does and does not do. Figure out how long it lasts. And we're still struggling with that concept. But we're at a place now where we're in a spot where it's kind of back to the future. Now we've got this new light source, and it is the light source we're going to have. We know what to do with it. Now where do we go from here? And that is the challenge that I see, which is why we're so committed at our company, at Sonopar and at Capital, to the education concept of it. Getting our people to be the best educated, the best prepared, the best trained, because you don't know, you never know when you're going to ignite that passion in someone. You don't know what's going to light that candle. You don't know when that person's going to hear a Mark Lien. And wow, you know? So that's the excitement for me. It is a passion. It is a love. It is a family. And I am so, so grateful to everyone who is responsible for me being here today, that I'm able to accept this on behalf of everyone that I truly love and cherish in this industry. And I thank you so much for the honor.